Do you struggle to make rocks using texture and paint, whatever? I have the best secret weapon for you to make rocks today. Two secret weapons, actually. The first one, which is my major secret weapon, is using Bohoang paper, which is beautiful, has a great tooth to it. It's 100% cotton cold pressed paper. And the second one is a little trick I use to create these rocks really simply and fast. And let me tell you, it goes really fast, and I'll show you how to do it. It's so easy. You'll be amazed how fast and easy it is to create these rocks. It's just that simple. If you're a Patreon member, you get the line drawing for this. If you want to be a Patreon member, you also get the additional tutorial with the cute little rocks and the pine trees. So, without further ado, I will teach you how to create rocks super simple, fast if you need to do a coastal rock scene like this with a couple little techniques. And using this fabulous paper, which is amazing. You should, if you haven't tried out Bohoang paper, you definitely need to try it out. It's one of my favorites. You click the link in the description box below if you want to be a Patreon member. And you get all the line drawings. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so as I said, I'm using Bohoang paper. I have the image here. I will link the image in the description box below. I taped off everything with Scotch Magic tape because I like Scotch Magic tape. It doesn't rip the paper, you just pull it kind of towards the side. I taped the horizon line because it's easier to paint that way, get a nice straight line. You can do it without it if you want to. It's just, for me, it's just like a nice tool that I like to use to make a nice straight line, just using the tape. I'm going to mix up some cerulean blue with some ultramarine blue deep. And I'm using my Princeton 12 Neptune series brush. It's a nice floppy brush just to do the sky. You have to test out what kind of colors you want. You can match it exactly as the photograph or not. It's a little bit brighter. If it's too bright, I might add a little burnt sienna just to tone it down, but I'll test it out. And I like it. So I'm just going to go across. It's a small, tiny area for the sky. I'm going to go around the lighthouse. I don't want to paint that lighthouse because it's white. You can mask it out if it makes your life easier just to do it that way. And this paper is super, super thirsty. As you notice, you might have like a lot of paint you think. You don't have enough. Trust me, you don't have enough. I'm adding more water. This is a very thick, super thirsty paper. It's got a lot of divots in there, little crevices. So that's what I'm saying. You need a lot of paint. It's going to soak right in there. It's just the most thirsty paper I've ever used. You're going to have to get used to it if you haven't ever tried it. It's a little learning curve. But because of that, you get these great little textures that you don't get in other papers. It's really amazing. It's really fun. But again, you got to use a lot of paint. So I'm just going to putting in the sky. I'm leaving a little bit white here and there where I feel like maybe I want to leave some white. You don't have to do that. You can just put the whole blue in. It's up to you. I'll just kind of put this in. I'll add a little deeper color on the top left-hand side just to give it a little bit of depth on top. You know, the sky gets a little darker on top and lighter on the bottom as perspective works. Yeah, and then I'm gonna let it dry and come back and we'll paint the edge right there of, like, you see like the background mountains and kind of like a purplish blue color tone. So you definitely have to let it dry though, so we'll bleed underneath it. But I like Scotch Magic tape for that. So we're gonna let this dry and we're gonna come back. For the little mountains in the background, you can take some ultramarine blue deep, add a little like rose or magenta, get it on the purple side. It's obviously going to be darker than the blue we had first. I'm just going to put that color in right here. This pretty blue mountain area. And it will dry lighter. I'll just put that in. And that's why I have the tape there. So you can just go like this, and you have a straight line. And not make yourself crazy. And when this dries, we can go back over this area of the water with the tape again, so you're not going to make a mess, as you know. So I know this seems ridiculous, but you'll have to wait for this to dry. We want to paint the water before we start to paint the rocks. So I'm going to wait for this to dry. I'm going to come back and paint the water and then the rocks. What I might have forgot to mention is that I'm using Scotch Magic tape. I like Scotch Magic tape. For me, I don't like some of the washi tapes. I feel like they curl up unless you can find a really good one that's not going to peel up so paint gets underneath it. I don't like that. So for the color here, this blue tone of the ocean, listen, it can be ultramarine blue deep. I'm mixing some of that, but it's so bright, right? I'm going to play around with some color here. I'm going to mix in some Prussian blue with that. Let's see. maybe a little burnt sienna. Just it's a very deep coastal blue, kind of like what we have up here in Maine and Massachusetts. It's always good to play around to see if the color looks right. Sometimes I test it on a paper towel like that. And I might add a little bit more burnt sienna. It's getting a deeper color. Look at that. Deeper blue. You see it's almost like a navy. I'll add a little bit more because I want more paint. Don't forget that this paper is so thirsty. So mix up a good amount of paper. And I'm still using my 12 Neptune series for this. Grab my little burnt sienna in here, mixing up the two. Test it on my paper towel to see if I like the color. If it looks good, boom. And a little Prussian blue and a little burnt sienna. I want a little bit deeper. Okay. I think it looks good. Okay. So we're just going to go over this whole area. Now it might seem a little bit dark. I'm going to add a little bit more water. See, the tape just helps you not have problems with the straight line. If you get over the rocky area, that's no big deal because it's going to be much darker. We didn't want it on the lighthouse. Okay. And now we can go down here. You can just kind of wiggle it in around the rocks. Very thirsty paper, but amazing for, you just go like this across with your paintbrush. Look, sun hitting the ocean there. Fantastic for texture, dry brushing. You want those like sunlit ripples on your paper. This is what you use. If you don't, just go in here. I'm going to go around here. There's a rock that's there. Filling this in. Going to add more water. It's very thirsty. See? You just go across with your nice floppy brush and you have that sun rippling on the water like that. Right? You could say the sun's coming from the left, and you can kind of, if you want to lift a little bit over here, but this is what you got to do. You got to do like the first round. I don't know if I want to necessarily keep it like that. Play around with that. I might just fill it in for the photograph because the photograph doesn't show it, but I'm showing you how you can create that sunny, lovely speckle on the ocean. Use this paper. This is the paper. Other papers are feeling well. Arch paper is good. Not as good as the Bohoang for the texture. Just gonna fill this in. All right. Fill it in. So while we're waiting for that to dry, just like one wash of color here. We're going to be adding some more deeper color too. I added some more already up here. But the rocks, the tool that is amazing to make rocks, super easy and simple. You need a credit card, an old credit card, right? And we're going to mix up a lot of paint because remember, this paper is super thirsty. But this is like a 2-second thing to make rocks. So ultramarine blue deep, burnt sienna mixed together, thicker. I'm adding more paint here. Burnt sienna. So you get a nice gray, can be almost blackish gray. You could add even a little bit of lunar. I have this lunar black. I might add a little bit of lunar black. These are granulating colors. I think it's getting too loose. Okay. So the blue and the burnt sienna. I'm going to play around with this. So I'm going to take some burnt sienna by itself over here on the side. As you can see, there's a little bit of brown happening here. So I'm going to go up in here. Oops. Excuse me. Clean up my brush a bit. Grab the burnt sienna. Burnt sienna up in here. Up, I'm going to take off my tape, by the way. Oh, well, it went up. That's okay. We can always fix that. Burnt sienna, and I'm going to add the blue and the gray rock. Going down. Mixing up more color, filling it in. Make sure you have your credit card close by. This paper is really thirsty. I'm going to add some thicker color. Some of these areas here. Going down. Filling that in. Now, it might bleed a little bit because it's wet, but that's cool because it's going to add like a little kind of, abstract kind of tone to it. I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to add a little bit more burnt sienna over here. So we have a couple of different tones happening here. Just fill that all in. Just like so. I'm going to let this seep into the paper a little bit. While that's happening, my tape just ruined everything for me, didn't it? That's okay. I'll just take a brush and lift that paint real quick. I don't freak out about this stuff. And it's like it never happened. Voila. So this is seeping in, and you can see all the granulation happening, all the good stuff going on there, right? Seeping in the paper. Timing is everything for this. I'm not kidding. Timing is everything. We're going to do like a little scraping with our credit card. We're going to twist and turn and scrape it. And it's going to create the rocks for us, right? And sometimes I have to just test it out. It's seeping in this really porous kind of 100% cotton paper. Let's see if it wants to cooperate. You're going to scrape. If it's going back, it's just going to twist and scrape. I'm going to have to make a little smaller one here. I can make a smaller credit card, cut the end so it's small like this. Yeah, it's still seeping in, so we gotta give it a couple minutes here. It also helps if the paint's a little bit thicker too. Like I'm gonna get this a little bit thicker. And you just scrape, twisting, turning. Still seeping in. And let's create the rocks for you. All the little highlights. Without having to do all that serious work of different tones. You put the different tones in the granulation color. You got that cool paper that has the tooth to it. Just twisting, turning. Oop, I broke my credit card. Yeah, twisting, turning here. Scraping. And you get that rock formation. It's a lot lighter down here, so I'm going to really twist, scrape. Look at that. You already got rocks happening. I'm going to leave this one a little bit dark. As you can see, it's a little bit darker here. Kind of scrape around it up here. You see that? So we got that dark shadow. We didn't even touch that one. Look how easy that was. The rocks just look like the rocks there. It's super easy. Now it's a little bit lighter up here. Scrape a little bit more here. There. And how long did that take to make rocks? You don't want to paint forever. You got the rocks right there, ready to go, right? A little guy, you don't need to scrape. You can grab whatever little brush you have. I have a Princeton 8 long round. And I'll just kind of wash in the little color here, gray, right? And then it's darker on the bottom. So you grab your darker grays and kind of lead those on the bottom here. Just kind of tapping them with a little darker, deeper color. And there's the shadow. See that? Put a dark color underneath. Same thing with these guys. Over in here, you can kind of play with adding in some of the shadows with some deeper color. There's the highlight up here. You put the shadow on the bottom. We'll deal with the ocean in a bit. Same thing in here. You kind of highlight, put the little shadows here, and then you've created these little crevices and even darker for the one here. Isn't that great? Where it kind of bled in here, that's great. It's fine. I'm just kind of adding a little. Take a brush. I have this number 8 long round from Princeton. Velvet Touch series. I'm just going to go in here. It's bleeding, and I don't mind the bleed. Kind of gives a nice cool look. Just kind of take it, go like this, a little bit. And like I said, the little dark color goes in the bottom area. Beautiful. And like here, I kind of bled a little bit. Like again, it's not a big deal. You can add a little deeper color in some sections. It's not supposed to be perfect, but it's the essence of it, right? A little rock kind of happening in here. All right, we'll let that dry and we're going to play with the ocean and the house. So for the ocean, I'm grabbing my Princeton 8 long round again. You see these little lines. Make sure that's not too dark. Going like this, across, and just follow that a little bit. There is one right here at the horizon. And you can see those little lines happening. Some kind of together, right? Make sure they're kind of straight. A little bit more filled in here. And all I did was mix in some ultramarine blue deep and a little bit of burnt sienna. Same color here, but once you put another layer on it, it gets a little darker. This is the same color but watered down. And we're just going to go across here and put our little lines. And you can put the little ones too, little teeny ones. Don't make yourself crazy. This is like the first initial wash in with these. We'll get a little bit darker still. So get a little bit darker blue around this area by using that same color tone. Just put some lines in like up top. Don't do a million little lines though. You might want to wash in some color. I'm going to have to mix up a little bit more blue. Just a tap of the burnt sienna blue. Oops, tap. And it changes the blue for a little bit more deeper, kind of like a light navy. And you get our little ripples. Now here you can kind of make them a little bit deeper, just making those little lines, see? But you can make it just a little bit darker as you see here, down here below. Just a little bit deeper color happening. I kind of do like a wash and then go back in and put a few lines in there. Because we have a small area here. I've cut this paper in half. So you just want to build up to that. You don't want to bleed into the color too much too soon. Okay. While that's drying, now the house is just white, right? We're going to make a gray wash, just a light wash here, and then you go back in and put the shadow. So these two colors, again, make a perfect gray. Just add a little bit more burnt sienna to get really gray. Really water this down. As you see, I got a lot of water here. Tap the excess water on the paper towel. And I'll put the first wash of the lightest gray. I don't want to hit this window right here, though. I have a little kind of phrase here going here. Really light gray wash. This one panel here. This one can go on here. And the same thing with the side of the lighthouse part. That's the house, and this side gets darker. As you can see, they're in shade, shadow, and shade. And then this is all gray, but very light gray, and then we'll add the deeper value in a bit. What I didn't do, what I noticed, is that the blue should have gone through this little house on the top. You can try and play with the color. I'll add the cerulean and ultramarine blue and see if I can kind of mix up the color a little bit. It's a tiny little spot. Let's see if I can put the blue in here. See if people would notice. You wouldn't notice that. And this gray back here. This gray little side of the house. Right there. Okay, you let that dry. And we're going to go do our shadow layer. So it really looks intense, right? You have to let that dry. You have to let this dry, and we'll come back. So we've let that dry. We've added the ultramarine blue deep and burnt sienna again, a little bit deeper, right? And here's the shadow layer. And I'm going to make mine kind of more intense. going across, as you see in the lighthouse. And I'm sorry, the house and the lighthouse. Go down here, goes across, and then this one, and then you see the shadow from this guy. So it's pretty intense. And then we use the same color, put the dark gray underneath this part of the lighthouse here. And then we can use the gray for the windows. Just go in here and put the window in here. The same color we use for the shadow. And get even deeper here for the window. These are just minor details. This one's like half open, so it has a little bit of gray. You see in the photograph. Just minor details. Now the window over here, this little teeny window has a little whitening you can see through. You can just use a little gouache for that. And I'm going to get a little bit darker by using the ultramarine blue deep and burnt sienna. Hardly any water at all. It's almost like black, but you don't want it black. Get a little bit deeper here under that part of the lighthouse. And there's this little cobalt shadow here. Kind of lift this window. Goes up into this window over here. Right? And then this one gets a little bit deeper. And then you could put some of the outline of the window, like just to highlight it. Right? Up in here, same thing. Just going to use this deep gray and these little crisscross lines that you see happening. And we're going to do the red in a second. Save our gray because we can do the roof shading first and then put the red in. So you can just put this shading here. It goes over up into the part of the house here that we just used below, that deep shading. We'll wait till it dries and we'll just add the roof and then we're good to go. For the roof color, I'm just using a little bit of red. I have a little bit of pyro or whatever red you have, and a little bit of burnt umber to get that brownish red. Now we're just going to fill that in right over that shade color we did. So you can either do the shade before or after. This side seems to be a little bit lighter, so I'll lift up a little paint, and then we have a little top here, and we have a little lighthouse top here. There's a little gray top on this guy. That's our little cute little house, right? So now we'll go back to our little ocean, add a little more detail with the blue, a little bit deeper, little lines like this. Couple little lines. You don't want to do a million of these because they'll be really bad. Won't look so cute. Little dashes in the ocean. Just do a little for effect. You don't want 1,000 of them. And it will look really pretty. You can put a couple of lines going across that are darker like this. Not a million of them. Like I said, less is more. And you'll have a beautiful lighthouse design. And that didn't take much time at all to paint, did it? Nope. Not at all. I'm going to go back in here, add a few more, even a little bit deeper. And here's a cute lighthouse. The rocks were so easy to paint. Looks just like that. Isn't that fabulous? Last thing is just some minor details. You always do the details at the end. A little bit darker under the roof here. Under this one, a little line coming down here. Small little details in the windows. You don't have to go crazy. And you can just add a little bit of teeny white watercolor. I'm gonna mix this up here. Teeny bit. For the window here that you can see like right through. And that's it. There you go. So I hope you enjoy this. Let me know your thoughts. My power went out, but I'm still filming. If you're a Patreon member, you get the extra with the rocks on this one. If you want to be a Patreon member, click the link in the description box. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this simple lighthouse. Don't forget the picture is in the link in description. So I hope you have a fantastic day. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.